Thank you for joining us this evening in the regular scheduled council meeting of the Park City City Council on October 24th, 2017 at 7 p.m. Daniela, would you call the roll?
John Linner.
Here.
George Glover.
Here.
Gary Aldridge.
Here.
Melvin Kerr.
Here.
Tom Jones.
Here.
George Capps. Brandy Bailey.
Here.
Jim Schrader.
Here.
A quorum is present, Your Honor.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the invocation, which Pastor Tom Penning is going to lead us in, and Councilman Gary Aldridge is going to lead in the pledge. If everybody please stand.
I'm going to say a couple of words, not many, don't worry. Thank you for the honor, again, of being asked to come here and pray. It's a great building. This is very impressive and very nice. It's the first time I've been in it. It had been a while since Melvin asked me to pray, and I thought perhaps that it was because I had received a ticket from the police officer. And then I realized that that doesn't make sense because I would be paying your salary and you should be glad to have me come back. But then the whole thing was cleared because I realized it was Keachai. Please pray with me. My Lord and my God, I thank you for this day and this time that you've given us to do your work on your behalf. I ask that you give these men and women wisdom, give them clarity of thought, give them understanding, and may they make decisions that are leading to success, leading to profit, and leading to peace. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion? Jim?
I move that we approve the agenda.
And John. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. Tonight, under awards and presentations, I have for the council to consider the appointment of Ben Bolander to the Convention and Tourism Board. Ben, if you'd like to come up. And everybody received his information in the packet. If you wanted to introduce yourself.
Yeah, Ben Bolander with Hartman Arena. I've been here just over 2 years now, and I'm kind of flabbergasted by this room because I'm used to being over across the way with the CNT board, but very impressed, and hopefully you guys can approve and consider me to be a part of the CNT board tonight.
Thanks. Tom?
Having interfaced with Ben in the past with CNT, I'd make a motion that we approve this recommendation.
And John?
I'll second that.
Okay. Brandy, did you have a question?
No, I was just going to second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ben. We appreciate it.
Looking
Thanks.
forward to it. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a proclamation for Red Ribbon Week. Chief, did you want to say anything about this before I read it?
Just that I don't think it's any secret. It's been in the news a lot here lately that there really is a national crisis with drug abuse in this country, and the number of deaths from overdoses is at an all-time high. And so I think it's a very timely thing for you to make a proclamation like this.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Whereas the alcohol and drug abuse in this nation have reached epic stages, and whereas it's imperative and visible, unfiled prevention education efforts by community members be launched to eliminate the demand for drugs, and whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign offers citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles. And whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in every community in America during Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd through the 31st. And whereas businesses, government, parents, law enforcement, media, medical institutions, religious institutions, schools, senior citizens, service organizations, and youth will demonstrate their commitment to a healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing and displaying red ribbons during this week-long campaign. And whereas the community of Park City, Kansas further commits its resources to ensure the success of the Red Ribbon campaign. Now therefore, let it be resolved that I, Ray Mann, the mayor of the city of Park City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim October 23rd through the 31st, 2017 as Red Ribbon Week, and encourage our citizens to participate in the drug prevention education activities, not only during Red Ribbon Week, but all year long, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free community. Is there a motion? John
I'll make a motion to approve as presented and read.
and Tom.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. We don't have anyone signed up to speak at public forum this evening, so we'll move on to staff reports, and we'll start with our city administrator, Jack Whitson. Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was brought to our attention that one of the businesses here in town was flying a Wichita flag, one that we have given incentives to, which kind of put a burr under our saddle. I contacted that business, and they said, where can I buy some Park City flags? And so I gave it to them, and they will be flying a Park City flag. Of course, we always have to realize where the work comes from for these people too, so they can't necessarily ignore our neighbors to the south because they depend on their business to be alive. But they were very positive about it, and they're going to do a little job for us for naught, and real pleased with that. I was informed by our realtor that another lot in Saddlebrook looks like it may happen. It'll probably be our last lot. We conveyed over the lot 46 for their HOA to
You're talking
do a
about
playground.
Bear Hill, just.
Excuse me, Bear
Okay.
Hill.
Thank you.
And so it's, looks like the HOA is now in full control of their subdivision, which is absolutely wonderful. They've did the walkthrough on 53rd Street and Broadway. Very minor things were found, and they're getting those wrapped up. The other project on 53rd is completed. They're still going to plant some grass here in November, which I thought was kind of a late in the day type planting season, but that's the earliest that KDOT will let them plant the grass and everything. There was an oil spill out on 53rd Street. I don't know if anybody called you or not, and that's been taken care of. So, anybody got any questions? I'd be more than happy to try to answer them.
I just have a couple of things to add, what you said. One, just talking about the flag. You know, our neighbors down south have done an excellent job promoting and marketing and branding that. And I think that's something that we could work on with our flag. Maybe it needs a refresh. But I guess I would like to see what level of interest there is in looking at our current flag and what we might need to do to rebrand that and put that out there. So I think that's something that the council should consider going forward. Also, when we look at housing, through the month of September, we are equal with what we did last year in homes permits. So we still have October, November, and December. Usually some slower months, but I know we have plenty of building activity going on, so we should exceed what we did last year in new homes. Did anybody have any questions for Jack? Not seeing any. Thank you, Jack. We will move on to our Director of Public Works, Rick Norman. Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Works report for this evening, October 24th, 2017. First of all, in our park department, we have completed our fall spraying in Grove Parks. That's pre-emergent. Been doing that now for about 4 years. We believe that is helping with the weed control there. It's not eliminated, but it does help. We did have the Chisholm Point Lake sprayed for algae control. This is probably going to be the last time for this season that we do that. We have started working on winterizing our irrigation systems, and as of this date, we have 12 of those that are completed, so they're substantially through. We have a couple more maybe left to go on that. Last Saturday, we had the Shred It Day. The load count for that was 56 loads, total of 1,940 pounds. Last year was 42, so we did have an increase there. Street Department completed culvert repairs in Saddlebrook. We had 2 end sections of culverts that were damaged or broken. We had to excavate that out, form that up, and pour concrete to connect those. Did complete a rotation of mowing and trimming on the medians, hydraulic and 61st Street. And last week, we did complete the striping on Air Cap and Beaumont. The Water and Sewer Department, the average work orders per day for the first 2 weeks of October was 22. Glad to answer any questions.
Rick, can you give us an update on what's left in mulch down in the park?
We started off with about 10 cubic yards of that. We still have some left down there. What we've been doing the last several years is after our spring or fall brush and limb day, we keep it down there for about 30 days. And after that point, we haul it out of there.
That's really the message I wanted to get out to the public, is that we still have some mulch available. So if anybody wants to go down there and get any, it is available for anybody to go grab any.
And the cost is really good.
That's true. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Rick? Not seeing any. Thank you, Rick. That brings us to the consent agenda. Is there a motion? George?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
And Gary?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item A under new business, to get an update from Mike Livlin on the multifamily housing facility to be located in Park City. Mike?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Well, to give you an update on the project at Echo Hills, better put my glasses on. I thought I could do without them. On the Echo Hills portion, we're working on the plat in conjunction with Colette and their layouts, and a lot of this is somewhat similar to the last time because it's in process. Working on the site plan, the grading plan with Baughman for the architects. Working with Walker Dunlop on the approval for the letter of invitation, which is about a 60-day process with HUD. And then working with Key Construction and the architects on the submittals and any changes, if any, to the plans. And there really isn't any changes to them other than sometimes we've got to change the date on the plans, or there's a few minor changes we've made on them. I have a note here about the sign, and we're talking to that's actually belongs to Woodmont, and then Colette may use it. So I'm working on that. Colette Properties, the broker that brought them to me, I've talked to him 3 or 4 times since the last time we met, and he's obviously talks to Colette, finds out where they are, and they are working with their tenant, who they don't want to say who it is yet until they get them to commit. And so they, they're going through the process, site plans and leases, and I mean, this is a big company, and so they got to go at their speed. And so they're working on the site plan and the lease. And I'm a little worried, because we're heading into November and December, that it may be January before we get them to do a final approval on it. But we're trying to get it done before that. But it may be, my experience has always been Thanksgiving and December for the retailers is not when they're trying to tie up properties, or they're more concerned about their sales. I do have another restaurant as of last week that's interested in going, and they were interested with or without an anchor. So that's 2 restaurants I have that I'm working with that are interested in coming, with whether there's an anchor or not. So working on that, and I think that's about all I have to report.
Okay.
But I'd take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Mike? Jack?
Mike, one of the questions I get, because you use the word HUD, and a lot of HUD housing brings with it some real concerns, like Section 8 housing and some things like that. Is this going to be market rate housing?
Yeah, I only mention HUD because what they do is they're the guarantor, and they insure the loan to the lender. So it's a market rate project, but it's HUD guarantees the loan to the lender.
Okay.
And so that makes it.
I know there was a lot of concern when you say HUD, and
Yeah.
people have visions of
Yeah.
some things not so
Yeah, no,
pleasant. So
it'll be, I mean, this project, same architect as what was built K96 between Oliver and Woodlawn, and it's basically that same design. Probably the biggest difference is we took that hilly piece of property, and we'll have, on the parking lot side, it'll be 2-story, and on the downhill side, it'll be 3-story. And that way you never have to climb 2 flights of stairs. You'll just go in, and you can go down one, up one, or you're on the correct level. So it's somewhat unique, and we're taking advantage of rather than flattening out the property, taking advantage of the contours. So,
All right. Thank you.
okay. Thank you very much, and we'll see you around Thanksgiving.
All right. Thank you, Mike. The next item on the agenda is item B, which is consider a resolution setting a hearing date for the owner occupants of the property located at 1915 East Fairchild Street to show cause on why the garage on said property should not be demolished as dangerous and unsafe structure. Bob?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bob Walker, Building Inspector at Park City. At 1915 East Fairchild's a detached garage. We have a picture showing the condition of it. This is a process that we actually started in July, and we're just going through the correct process of doing this with the advice of Doug, who's our city attorney. And now we're coming in front of you with a resolution to keep proceeding ahead with the abatement. So pictures pretty well tell the story. It's definitely a nuisance. The roof structure allows anything that wants to get in through there. But that's, I'm bringing it for you to see for your approval of it this evening.
Okay. Doug, do you have anything to add?
Only that the resolution is required under state law. This is the process that allows us ultimately to assess this against the property, the cost of demolition. And the state statute requires a 30-day pass between the second publication of the date of the second publication of this resolution, and that's why the public hearing's kind of so far in the future. That's the quickest we can do it is December 12th, the first meeting in December, and I would recommend that the council adopt the resolution.
Okay. Does any of the council have questions for either Doug or Bob? Is there a motion? John?
I just had a question.
Yeah, John.
Was it this property or right next to or near this that we did a similar action a year or so ago?
You're right, it's 1940-something.
Yeah.
Now that one, we got the cooperation from the loan company, and they actually paid
Okay,
for
that's-
that. This one's gonna probably be different.
I'll make a motion we approve.
Okay. Jim?
I'd second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Danielle, would you call the roll?
John Linner,
Aye.
George Glover,
Aye.
Gary Aldrich.
Aye.
Melvin Kerr,
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
Brandy Bailey,
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye.
And that resolution passes 7-0.
That-
So do we set a date? Or did you say that?
December
Sorry, I didn't
Number
get that.
12. I think.
Thank you.
Okay.
1970.
Thank you.
All right.
That is resolution 971-2017.
Okay. Thank you. That brings us to item C, which don't put Jack completely in the firing squad on this one, but he's just bringing it to our attention. That is the ceiling of the Park City Administration Building parking lot. Jack?
I hear all the time that the council likes options, so I'm bringing to you a couple of options. There's two, I'll be frank with you, there's two schools of thought in this process. One is, don't worry about sealing it. The second one is sealing it. Rick had wrote me a memo concerning that. The reason this came about is that we were looking into how we might clear the snow from this facility if it ever occurred. And obviously, as big as this is, we'd have to use salt similar to what we would on the street. And there is a possibility that that could produce maybe unfavorable spalding, or it may not. You know, you just don't know. So I asked them to go out and get some bids, and they got 3 bids, which is attached to the sheet. It's very expensive. There's one where you seal just the concrete. The other one, the cracks, the saw cracks that they put in it to control the cracking of the cement, is where it describes as joints, okay? The reason I've come this early into the process is that if you elect to do something, I'd like to have the ability now to get the process moving along. And the reason being is that you cannot apply this once it drops below 40. Now, Saturday, the low is supposed to be 18 degrees with a high of 40. Now, certainly we will have days that'll still get up to pretty close to 70 and stuff. And I'm not too concerned with that, but in November, it starts getting a little on the iffy side. So if you elect to proceed with this, then I'd like for you to do it this evening. Therefore, we have a little option as far as when we apply it. If you've noticed some cones out in the parking lot or whatever, we've had several panels replaced here recently by the concrete company that did the concrete originally. You can't put this on those spots for at least 28 days. You have to let it sit for 28 days. The vast majority of the cement could be applied, and they'd have to come back at the end of 28 days from when they've done their repairs and fix the or apply it to the remaining of the repairs. So that's kind of what your option is, do nothing or do something. The do something alternate, the only place I know off the top of my head that we could get funds to do this is MTBE money. We have no other funds available to do it. So if you got any questions, I'd be more glad to answer them.
Gary?
Jack, I was wondering if you can tell us on the sealant that they apply, does this have some kind of a life expectancy, or how often would we need to reseal it?
You would only need to seal it once.
One time.
Because it would soak into the cement itself.
Okay.
The longer cement has, if this was poured, let's say, in November of last year, and we're talking about sealing it, I wouldn't recommend it. it's a curing process. The longer this cement cures, the less likely that you're going to have an impact of salt on it. This was only poured here in the spring, and so it doesn't have a whole lot of time to cure. And so it's kind of a, like I say, it's kind of a iffy deal,
Right.
to say the least. So, but the longer the concrete cures, the less likely you're going to have a spalling with applying salt. And what the magic number is, I do not know. So,
I personally think this is a bad decision to do this. I don't think it's necessary. In my experience with things I've done, I've never went to the expense of doing this. And I would think for the cost of some of these, with the high being $63,000, we could come up with an alternative way of not using salt and use a different material on it to get us through the first winter. I understand why Jack wants to bring this to us, so he can at least say we gave you the option, whether or not we did or didn't. But I definitely want to hear from the council on what their feelings are. Tom?
Well, Jack said something that got my attention, and we are replacing panels out there right now. They're not all done. I don't know how you would go in there and seal parts of it and then come back and do other parts of it.
and sprayer.
Well, I understand that, but it just makes no sense to do part of it and then come back and do part of it when the parts you're talking about are in the center of the parking lot that they'd have to come back and do.
Well, they'd have to do it on a weekend because when they apply it, you have to keep traffic off of it for 12 hours, foot traffic for 4 hours, so it'd have to be done on a weekend. Public Works talked to the people that bid this, and they're saying no problem coming back and hand spraying those individual panels if that's what we want to do. But you can't do it prior to at least 28 days because that's a full cure for the cement. If you apply it to the cement before the 28 days, it stops the curing process of the cement. So you'll end up with a weaker concrete than you would otherwise. That's the only problem about these patches. You got to give them time to cure. But they claim there's no problem coming back if that's what we want to do.
But I'm also looking at the value of this, and I have to agree with the mayor. There's probably an alternative to salt that we could use.
It's about a $1,500 a snow event option. Because that's the first thing I said, is there something else? Salt would cost us $100 per treatment. The stuff that doesn't supposed to affect the cement is more like $1,000, $1,500 based on the square footage that we have.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Jim?
Guess I'm not I understand it, but I'm not real familiar with it. So is there some statistics about how, does it extend the life of the cement, the concrete?
Well, it just keeps it, I thought I had a picture of Spalding on here, but evidently it just didn't get on my thing. Spalding is like pockmarks, okay?
Yeah. I've got
Doesn't weaken the cement, it just doesn't make it very attractive, you know? And it could affect the cement over time if water puddles in the little pot marks and expand and contracts. You know, it could affect it. I had it in my driveway for 25 years.
Jack, did we ever treat the other parking lot?
Yes, we did, and we didn't see any Spalding on it.
Okay. Jim, did you have anything else?
No, I don't, yeah, that's all I had.
Rick, did you have some comments?
Brief comment. The reason that we brought this to council's attention is because the concrete is new. An old concrete, this doesn't matter. This concrete has only been applied for a short amount of time and has not cured out. We typically use on the streets rock salt, which is a standard street blend rock salt, and also up around the buildings we use ice melt, which is less corrosive. Once concrete gets past a year old, you don't need to do this. If this was a year old, we wouldn't bring this to your attention. On our ice melt, it says do not apply to new concrete. Our research indicates the definition of new being anywhere from a month to 6 months, depending on manufacturers and what you're using this for. Most of the time, you can't put salt on new concrete. I don't know that we've ever done that. The only constituent that I've seen, as Jack had indicated, there's an ice melt, which is less corrosive. That still says do not use, product label says do not use on new concrete. In the process of doing research on this, there's a product called CMA, which is, I believe, calcium, magnesium, that is supposed to be safe for that, for new applications on concrete. The catch of that is, for our use for a single application, it's about $5,000. That's the only product that I've seen. Not saying that there's not any more, but we've done a little bit of research on this, that we don't want to get in a situation where we're damaging the concrete by putting something on there that we shouldn't. Are we sounding the alarm that if we put the ice melt down that it's for sure gonna spalt or flake or pit? No, we don't know that for sure, but it could happen. I would quantify the risk of that to say between a high range and low range, probably mid-range. But the cost to replace concrete is so high. So that's our opinion on this, that we can do nothing on it and mechanically treat it as best we can. As Jack indicated, there's a ice melt that we can put on that. It's less likely to do damage to the concrete, although the label says do not use on new concrete. Or we can go with the CMA, which is $5,000 a pallet.
Even if we looked at the $5,000 option, we could treat it 12 and a half times before we had hit the max cost on sealing it the one time. So, I mean, that's something the council needs to consider as well, too.
It was staggering, the cost on that. It's very expensive.
Okay. Rick, you want to stay there just in case we have a couple of questions
Sure.
for you? Tom?
Well, I have one, and that is that we're replacing concrete right now. It's not all done. Has to be there at least 60 days before they can treat it.
28.
28, well, we're still talking December probably before they could treat it. You're already into a weather issue. So you're gonna have partial parking lot done, partial not done, and you're gonna have parts not done in the middle of the parking lots. So, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I could see doing it all, if we could do it all at one time, but we can't. So, but I also understand the other dilemma, but
Well, I think one thing too, I don't think it really matters if we do it all or part of it now, because the contractors already know we have this issue. So it's all gonna get done. It just may be, you know, a month difference between the application, and that's included within the bid. So I don't know how much effect that has, because we're looking at doing the entire parking lot. It's really just choking down whether or not you wanna look at this as an insurance policy that we're putting on the concrete, or whether we don't. And I think that's the big thing we need to look at here.
The big issue with staff is that if we took on a decision like this and it was the wrong decision, who would you blame? Staff. So we're giving you the option and you make the decision. If you make the wrong decision, it's on you and not on the staff. Be frank with you, okay? You know, and so.
I'm not debating sealing the parking lot. What I'm having trouble with is the amount of money we're gonna spend, and we're gonna do it in patches. And until we get the rest of the parking lot fixed, I think we need to back out of this, so, personally.
Okay, Jim?
I don't know, I'm sitting over here thinking about it, and what it comes down to me, and I think the mayor maybe summarized it most accurately, was we could, I would think it makes more sense to not do this. It's just too expensive. And to take our chances and maybe spend a little more money treating the sidewalk, the parking lots, if and when we have ice or snow events. So I'd probably even go so far as to make a motion that we turn this down at this time, due to the high cost.
Okay, would there be a second for discussion? John?
Second.
Okay, John, did you have any comments?
No.
Okay, Gary? Or I'm sorry, Brandy.
I just kind of have to second the comments over here. I feel like you said that some of the curing or the process, as to when to apply on well-cured concrete, that it could be 4 months, it could be 6 months. Well, some of it we're already, by the time we get to those months, we'll be 6 months in, so. And I feel like the cost, I think we just need to look at and wait.
Okay, Jim?
I just had one other comment I forgot to say, but I love it that you guys thought about this ahead of time, and we're planning. This is good forward thinking. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. We're in the process of redoing some of the parking lots, so to some extent, with the later part of October coming on, it is toward the later part of to be considering this, but and Councilmember Jones does have a good point as far as sealing part of this and not. That is a valid issue on that. We had to recontact the vendors just to find out about the new concrete on that. So as Jack indicated, it was 28 days prior to that, so it was going to have to be done in sections at that point. And we do have an alternative with this CMA, this product, and it claims to be safe on new concrete. There's a qualifier with that in the brochures that says dependent upon the quality of the concrete. Well, that's a pretty wide angle approach to that. That does give us something to put on that if council would agree to take this. Maybe, I don't know what the delivery time on this, I can't imagine that it's I don't know that it's readily available, but it's so expensive, it's probably not widely used. But we didn't, like I said, we didn't want to take that material and put it on this concrete. Chances, it may not have damaged it, but if it does and it flakes it up, the costs are very expensive. So we do have an option with the CMA to move forward on this.
Okay. George?
Yeah, I like the alternatives, Rick, the CMA. For me, the price is astronomical. I like to look at cutting costs, and there's some way we can do that. I'm all for that. Plus the fact I wouldn't want to use the MTB monies right now as far as our savings, what we have. I know that we're going to have to use them down the road, but I think there's an alternative to what we have to pay for this to go ahead and look at that first. Thank you.
Okay, Tom?
I keep looking at the number, and I think we did a whole section of an intersection on 61st Street for this value. That was a lot of concrete down there where we're doing down on West 61st. Not saying we shouldn't seal it, I just don't think it's the right time for it. And again, I don't know how you can do an application if we seal part of it and don't do part of it. So you're still gonna have your issue with being able to apply salt on any of it. So, I just think we need to rethink this. And there was multiple bids, and we just got a copy of one of them in the packet.
You got 3
Okay.
that are right there.
All right. I got one, so, and that's all I was asking. I
It's right
assumed it
there.
was. Okay, all right.
So here you go, Jack. Here's another question for you. On 53rd and Broadway, on the specs on that, did it call for sealing that after they poured that concrete?
Oh, no, I doubt that they did, to be
Ma-
honest with
it's a
you.
major concrete intersection. Okay.
Because the repair is on us and not the state, that's why they probably didn't do it.
Okay. Gary?
I guess the only question I would have is I'd like to see if we can find out what the delivery time is on that CMA, so that in case we do have to go that route, that we have an idea of what we're looking at in terms of delivery time and cost.
Rick, can you add that to your reports for the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We still may need to use some of the MTB money to purchase that stuff. It's only $5,000 though. So.
We can approach that if we need to.
And of course, you know, with global warming,
Yeah,
may
supposed to
not
be a
even
warm
have
winter.
snow this year.
Not get off topic here. All right, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. Once again, Rick and Jack, thank you for bringing this to our attention. That brings us to item D, which is consider a workshop for a strategic planning and a 10-year comprehensive plan. Tom had brought this up, so Tom, I'll let you pitch it.
I just looked at, maybe us get together one evening for hour and a half and go through the stuff and try to determine what we'd like to make as priorities as a council, to go back into the long-term plan or the comprehensive plan, so. And a lot of it's stuff we've already been acquainted with in the past. Some of it's done. There's some new things that need to be added to it, I believe, so, I'm open for best date possible. We need to do that in the very near future to get it done and get it in.
Okay.
Have you got a recommendation, Mayor?
I think what we need to do first is Jack submitted the spreadsheets for us to kind of fill out and turn in, and I think that would be a great starting point to fill that out and turn it in. But I do think we need to do some vision casting, and that probably needs to happen in a workshop type session on kind of what some of the next goals are that we want to try to accomplish. We have to admit, it took 5 years to get to this point in this building where we're at now. I really desire to see a campus plan put together that includes the park around this building. I would like to see an improved senior citizen center. I would encourage anybody to go over there and walk through that building and see the condition it's in. But I would like to start, what is our next thing that we want to focus on, that we start putting our efforts towards to bettering the city and creating just growth here. And I think the senior center and the park area and the campus plan, for me, is a great idea. But if we don't do any type of vision casting or planning or try to align with some type of goal, nothing will get accomplished. So it would be good to kind of lay out some priorities on what we get done. Another thing I'd personally like to see done is the intersection at Don Hatton Drive and 61st Street. I'd like to see us start working on a plan on how we can get that poured in concrete and get that taken care of and fixed up. Streets has been a conversation of many, and that's another area that we should be looking at, is what's some type of planning that we could work on. But I think it would be good first to get those sheets filled out, completed, turned in, and kind of see where the council is that helps guide any type of discussion that may happen in a workshop. So I see we have a couple of people lit up, so I'll start with Gary.
Yeah, I totally agree. We should have a workshop on this, because I know there's some things that we've already accomplished and some other priorities that are still left to do. one of those being the ditches. And I know we're working on a little bit on that, but, something that I've noticed particularly this summer, has not really been attended to even as it has been in the past. So that's a big thing for a lot of people in the city.
Yeah, and I think, the ditches is one thing you and I have talked about multiple times. We're working on some stuff to try to figure out how we can implement it. But it'd be a good idea to have a large task and then some small tasks that we're all working on trying to get accomplished so that we can move forward and check some things off the list. George?
Yeah, I think it's important to meet and get together and talk about our 10-year plan or master plan. We have talked about it before. In visiting with some of the residents of Park City, their concerns were they liked the idea of the master sidewalk plan that we talked about, but also the fact they want a swimming pool. The community swimming pool is a big thing that I'm hearing from residents. We talked about it before. We looked at some options for that. So I think that should be something we should look at as well. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to this? Tom?
Well, I have one. Is there a consensus on a time? I mean, sometime in the next 2 weeks, or?
Okay, Brandy?
I think maybe we should wait till after the election. That way we have a full board and it's the board that's going to be moving forward. So that way we're all on the same page and know what everybody's thoughts and ideas are.
Okay. Gary?
I think if we're going to wait for the election, then it's going to be next year before we seat those new candidates.
Tom, you got anything to add to those two time frames?
Well, I was going to say, when we have a workshop, it's an open meeting, and I would think that the candidates would be more than welcome to come. If they have ideas, they ought to be considered. So I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but I just think it ought to be open, and we ought to be listening to people. So.
Okay, John, did you have?
I canceled because that's what I was going to say is invite current candidates especially.
Okay. What if we do this? We don't take any action on this tonight. Everybody gets their sheets turned in by Friday this week. I'll work with Tom on picking out some dates. We'll bring a hard date or one or two options for a potential workshop to the next agenda or to the next meeting, and we'll hammer down a time for that. Brandy?
I think the sheets might have come out before I was on the board. So can I get a copy of that sent to me?
Okay. Jack, can you just email out a new one?
I'll just send you all a new one out, and I'll get the other candidates' emails and stuff. I can send it out to them as well.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to governing body reports. Just for me, I just want to say this week we will be looking at insurance options for employees. Hopefully we'll get some information by the end of this week, and we'll be able to come back to you either with some choices, or if we feel like we need to put together some form of a committee. We are getting down to a point where we're going to have to make a decision quickly. So we'll see how much time that is allowed, but hopefully we'll have something we'll be able to bring back to you or give you an update on by the next meeting. With that, we'll move on to Jim.
I have no remarks tonight.
I have nothing tonight.
Tom?
I don't have anything.
You didn't want to share about your new board?
I was appointed by SCAC to the Sedgwick County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council 2 weeks ago. And the first meeting is Thursday. I was reading through the minutes, and there was a recommendation in there in their June meeting that maybe somebody from Park City Police Department be on that. So the meeting's Thursday. I'll find out what they have to say about it, and it may be that there is a request from somebody from the police department to be on there too. So
okay,
I will get back with the mayor on that and the chief.
Thank you, Tom. Melvin?
I have nothing.
Gary?
I have nothing.
George?
Yeah, our Park City Fall Fest is this Saturday from 4 to 7, 28th, so everybody come out for that. We have 400 to 500 people come to that. It's all sponsored by the city. Also, for everybody to get out and vote, it's important that you vote, express your rights of voting, and that's on November the 7th. Thank you.
Okay, John?
Advanced voting started today as well, so that's all I have. I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the motion passes 7-0. Thank you.